Hey, seventh grade. So here's something fun that just happened to me. I did not know that you could not minimize my camera app on my Surface without pausing and canceling the video. So I just talked about poetry to myself for like 15 minutes before I realized that it wasn't recording. So let's start over. So the next thing I want to talk about is poetry. Sorry. So I'm going to talk about poetry, which is the bulk of your work for week 2, which is on your Schoology page. It should be the bottom folder in yellow, and it should say work to do week 2, March 30th through April 3rd. So there are 5 things that you have to do. The first thing is DGP. We already took care of that. The second thing is vocab unit 13. It should be on there. I'm going to start uploading. There are only 2 units after that, 14 and 15. So I'm going to upload those probably on Friday, and then they'll have due dates Thursday at 11:59, of course. But I'll upload those so you guys can kind of work on them at your own pace. But yeah, it's really exciting. So we've only got 3 left: 13, 14, 15. So you've got vocab and DGP, pretty basic. But then you have 3 other things that are under your poetry unit that you'll want to look at. So the big thing, basically, that we're doing with this poetry unit is that I'm introducing to you guys a bunch of the basic vocabulary of poetry. So we're looking at different poetic devices, which are just literary devices that you find in poetry. And then I'm introducing to you different types of poems. So poetic devices, types of poems, and then we're going to look at rhyme scheme is a big one, and then we're going to look at theme as well. So, and you guys know what theme is already. But we're basically just going to look at the basics of how to build poems. So the first thing that I have under the folder for poetry is it's called a poetry pretest. Usually what I would do is I would give you the pretest in class, and then it wouldn't be for a grade, and then you guys would try to find out how many of the definitions of the poetic words you know, and then we would go over them and we would find out like how well you did. But since we can't do that, I posted the blank, and then I also posted the answers. That way you guys can have the definition to those words available to you. That way when you start analyzing poetry, you have them there. There are lots of words you know. I'm sure you know similes, metaphor, theme, you know symbol, but there's lots of words you might not know, like stanza, alliteration, assonance, consonants. Probably don't know meter or rhythm. If you're a music person, meter and rhythm are both present in music, so I'm sure you'll figure it out super, super quickly once we go over it, especially when we start Shakespeare. We'll talk about meter and rhythm, but we'll also talk about it when we go over our poetry analysis. We'll talk more about it. But that's the third thing. The fourth thing listed under there, and this is for a grade, is that I have your poetry PowerPoint, and you guys have to physically like take notes on it. Like you have to write the notes down, or I guess you can type them if you want. But yeah, you have to take notes on that. The first half is all types of poems with examples, and then the second half is all different examples of many of the same poetic devices that are listed on the pretest, but there are some that are new as well. So I've got like 2 different things that are on there, but you'll need to use those. Now the reason you need both of these items is because the 5th piece of work is your poetry writing assignment. Very exciting. On the bottom of the poetry writing assignment, you guys can see that there is supposed to be like a poetry like presentation, but I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I do really like having you guys read poems out loud because I feel like it's really the only way that you can get the feeling for the rhythm and meter of the poem is by reading them out loud, so I'll figure it out. But you guys have to write 3 poems. You have to write a haiku, you have to write a limerick, and then you get to choose between a sonnet or a ballad. Haikus are short, and then limericks have to be 5 lines, and then sonnets and ballads are the long ones. But you can see with each poem, you have to follow a rhyme scheme. You have to follow a form, which is usually a length requirement. And then you have to follow the content. So some poems you can talk about whatever. Like in haikus and sonnets, you can talk about whatever. But for content for a limerick, they're supposed to be funny. And like the example that I have for you guys in the PowerPoint is from SpongeBob. If you remember the episode where SpongeBob is like jumping into people's dreams, it's a really old episode, and he goes into Gary's dream, and Gary can talk, and he has like a body, and he's wearing a robe, and he's in a library, and Gary's like picking out books, and Gary goes, "Here's one you might know," and he reads SpongeBob this silly limerick that says, "There once was a man from Peru who dreamed he was eating his shoe. He woke with a fright in the middle of the night to find that his dream had come true." So it's 5 lines. It's funny. It's about a guy eating his shoe. Maybe you don't think it's funny, but it was really funny when he read it in in the show because his limerick is dumb because he thinks SpongeBob is dumb. So, for example, limericks when it comes to content are supposed to be funny. I've had students write about dinosaurs. I'd had a student write about her cat Alfredo, which is really funny. I had a student write about her braces. I had a student write about Donald Trump. So they pick all kinds of things, and make them funny. And then ballads have a particular content. They have to tell a story. Sonnets don't. Ballads are supposed to tell a story. Ballads, especially back in the day for like traveling bards, were a really famous way of telling stories and keeping tradition. So there's a lot of those in like Greek and Roman story and mythology. Like in the Odyssey, which you guys will read in ninth grade, there's ballads where they tell stories. So ballads are like a big thing. So ballads tell stories. And so it has to tell a story. But you have to write 3 poems, and all the directions are on there. I'd be happy to look over them throughout the week if you want me to check. Just a reminder that all of your work from the first week and from this week needs to be turned in by Monday, April 6th, which is like 6 days from now. But yeah, so I just wanted to review with you guys again the stuff that you have to do. I need you to do DHP, I need you to do your vocab, I need you to take your notes on poetry, and then I need you to do the poetry writing. And then after you guys start to learn all of these vocab words and you start to learn all these different things with poetry structure, next week we're going to analyze poems. So I'm going to give you guys like lots of different poems and you get to analyze them, which is this is definitely my favorite unit ever. So I know it might be hard with you guys by yourself, but I'm going to try to post videos as often as I can so that I can kind of help you guys with the poems. But I hope this helped. I have to post both these videos separately, so I'll do that now. But if you have questions, just let me know. You can leave a comment, you can send me a message, you know the drill. But good luck with your poetry. I know it's new, but we're just experimenting right now. So there's no right or wrong. You just want to look at all these new vocab words, and I want you to just tinker with them, play around, and write poems. Just have fun, be creative, and then next week we'll start to, talk about how we analyze poems. So don't worry about it. Good luck, and if you need me, let me know. Goodbye.